In recent years, we've seen tremendous changes and we're all experiencing them. From volatile shocks, whether it's climate-related or social unrest, we know that increasingly the risk landscape is affecting companies in significant ways. We can talk about this as the environment, as significant social issues. We can talk about it as ESG or sustainability. Every company needs to be thinking about these issues from both a risk and an impact perspective. There's increasing pressure from not only investors, but stakeholders more broadly. And we're expecting to see much more regulation and compliance coming down the line. I lead partnerships for the Embedding project, which is a global non-profit research initiative. We work to support companies to embed sustainability across their operations and decision-making, and that involves a lot of focus around governance and strategy as well. I'm also co-director for the Sustainability Institute. We're a non-profit trust based out of South Africa, where we have over 20 years of experience exploring how we can work in more just and generative ways and the role of learning within that. I think whether it's in my research, my practice, or facilitation, I'm really interested in how individuals and organizations can explore ways of being in the world that are more just, that are more generative, and how we do that in both the small and the big. So my research actually followed over 20 multinationals, specifically working with a number of CEOs, boards, executive committees on understanding how they embed sustainability into core strategy. That was my PhD and a lot of the research I've done subsequently. But I think ultimately my experience on the last 10, 15 years now as a director, as a board member, and trying to understand the role of leadership through my own practice helps me to bring some much more practical insights into this program as well. To be honest, I really don't like the word sustainability. In its simplest sense, it means to keep things the same. And I think there's so much going on in the world today that we really want to see be fundamentally different. I think especially for those of us in leadership roles, we have the privilege in some ways, but ultimately the responsibility to understand where and how we need to take accountability for that. And it's an incredibly exciting role that we get to play, ultimately looking at how we can chart better courses for the future. In ESG Part 1 and 2, we look at the fundamentals of this landscape. What are some of the key terms and logics that every director should know, as well as what are some of those emerging themes, risks, trends that are coming up on the radar. We have a look at the roles and responsibilities of directors specifically in the context of both legislation and what guidance the King Codes give us. And ultimately, we look to support directors with key questions that they should be asking as they step more confidently and firmly into their oversight roles for the organizations that they steward. We also include a number of resources in this program. So I think it's an invaluable opportunity for people to upskill themselves, to get to grips with the basics as well as what is unfolding, and to be able to go forward with better questions and more resources to support them in the journey. The ESG Masterclass series is a little bit different in that we explore a number of the E, S, and G themes. It's structured as a series of 1-hour lunchtime sessions, and we deep dive into the fundamentals of the different topics, whether that's climate or water, material stewardship, some of the really critical social issues around community resilience, worker well-being and rights, and ultimately how this all comes together in terms of some big governance issues as well. So the ESG Masterclass is less about director roles and responsibilities, the governance principles and practices of ESG more broadly, and very thematic, specific upskilling opportunities around some of these important topics, the science, the research, the insights, the trends, and key questions to be asking about each of them. As a director of any organization, it's absolutely critical that you understand both the risk and impact exposure that your organization has. You are responsible not only in terms of best practice around governance, but ultimately in terms of your director responsibilities and liabilities in this regard. Waiting for a crisis to happen is really just no strategy at all. And so these programs, I think, are so helpful because it gives a critical overview of not just what the issues are, but how they came to be and what we need to do differently in order to navigate out of these really unstable and uncertain times that we find ourselves in. Hi, I'm Jess Schulschenk, lead for partnerships for the Embedding project, a global non-profit research initiative, and co-director at the Sustainability Institute based in South Africa. I'm the IOD's lead facilitator for ESG Part 1 and 2, the ESG Masterclass series. I look forward to seeing you in those programs.